Hi, thanks for joining us today. I am Hannah Hips. I am Judah's lovely sister. I'm from Arizona. Actually, I am from Arizona. I live in Charleston now. And today I'm going to be interviewing Judah. She's the one that came up with the idea for this Tango Wisdom Summit. I'm super proud of her. And today she's going to talk about why she did this. And Judah, where are you at right now?
Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much for being my interviewer. I really appreciate it. So, I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and this is, well, at least Arizona is where we grew up, outside in the foothills in Cave Creek, small little kind of hippie cowboy biker town. Quite an interesting combination. But we grew up together, running around, getting cactus in our feet, and having a good time in the desert.
Yes, we did. I miss it a lot. So, tell us, Judah, why did you decide to do this Tango Wisdom Summit?
Well, I decided for a few reasons. First is I blame you, Hannah, for giving me the idea.
You're so
because
welcome.
when was it? I think it was in October or September when you came out to visit, and you had mentioned somebody that you had recently taken a course with that was doing a virtual summit. And all of a sudden I had this idea of, I wonder if I could do something with tango for that. So first and foremost, I blame you for the idea. Second, I blame Mel Robbins and her book, The 5 Second Rule, for me actually doing it. Because her excuse me, her 5 second rule is essentially an action oriented way of, if you have an idea or an impulse to do something, to act on it within the first 5 seconds. And with that, if we don't, our brain literally stops us. Our brain's designed to keep us from change because it likes efficiency. And so when I had this idea and you gave it to me, I decided if I'm going to really follow what I thought so valuable about the information that Mel gave in the 5 second rule, I'd better act on it. So I just started reaching out to people that I knew to see if it was a good idea. And I got a great response. So those are two of the main reasons why this came to be and why we're here today. But the draw to create something that was based off of community came because of my long love of working with people and cultures and learning about what it means to be a beautiful human being worth descending from. And in tango, we have a really unique phenomenon where we not only come together as social beings, but we also get to work with our bodies. We get to engage in music and expression and artistic creativity. And we get to sort of inquire into our ability to relate to one another at some very intimate and deep levels. And with that being said, being social beings, it's something that we crave. And I certainly crave being around people and enjoying fun social interactions. And one of the impulses that drew me to this is my respect for emotional intelligence and the studentship that I've had that is related to our social emotional intelligence. and my mentor, Stan, who I found, only about a year ago. And I had been working, and inquiring into this subject for some time before that. But he turned me on to hearing something that in leadership, or say you're doing business coaching, a consultant will come in and coach the corporation or the organization on how to create systems and procedures and social norms that can keep things progressing if we come up against a roadblock. And he said something interesting that he had heard is the next evolution for our humanity in the realm of working with each other is social emotional intelligence. And that stuck with me. And so I thought, well, how could I bring social emotional intelligence into Tango? Because we already have so many beautiful components that are already present within the dance for that to take place. But we struggle as human beings, and no one taught us essentially how to have good social relations. And so I thought, why not come up with this idea in an online platform that reaches lots of people? So with all of this understanding that I had about social emotional intelligence, I would be in my local community and I would be hearing people complain about our community. And not only our community here, but I would hear it about other communities. Any conversations that I would have, even seeing things posted on Facebook, people would be saying, how do I handle this in the community? Or how do you get students? Or how do you build a community? Or how do you get people to go to your classes? Or how do you handle difficult situations? Or the argument of this is tango and this is not tango. And I had the privilege of being able to spend 4 months in Buenos Aires in 2016. And so when I came back to my local community and these conversations were still very present, and I had all of this energy and emotion and just juice that I wanted to share to my community, there wasn't a lot of places for me to put it. And so I wanted to be a vital part of the community, regardless of my place. At that point, I wasn't teaching in the community or organizing. I had just come back as a social dancer. And I wanted to, be able to bring whatever it was that I could to the community. And as these questions just kept turning, I just kept having more and more of these questions. And so with your idea coming to me, I thought, maybe this is the forum and this is how I could do it. And maybe we can start having intelligent conversations instead of me just asking other people in my community, well, what if I started reaching out to people that had already done this before, that were further down the road than I? And rather than just asking them individually, ask them in an online forum so that it can help us all. And since tango is all over the globe, and these questions were coming from all over the globe, I thought it the perfect opportunity to do this. So the speakers that I asked were not people that I had known. Some of them I knew, and some of them I knew they had really deep perspectives about tango, and not just in a sense about tango, but about who we are as human beings. And for me, if I want to be a part of a community, I have to first look at myself, and I have to first do self-inquiry to be able to meet people where they are. Because if I don't know where I am, I certainly am not going to be able to be at a place that can meet people or really help people at a deep sort of level. And this is the inquiry that I have with Tango is I have 21 years experience of working in the realms of wellness and health and working with people and helping people understand their bodies. And so it's been through this professional journey that I've had that allowed me to come into Tango and be able to pick up some things rather quickly because I understood my body. I had a lot of self-awareness, and I even had awareness about energetics and relating to people. And when I asked these speakers, I wanted to begin to get to some of those layers. And it was interesting because not all of them did I know where they were coming from. But as I listened to them, I got to hear these layers of how much they really understood about themselves and how much inquiry they had to do and self-work and contemplative practice that they even looked at Tango as. So many different perspectives on how to approach this phenomenon that's Tango. And from a personal level, and also from a community level, where most of them are teachers in some respect. And it was fascinating being able to even have these conversations. Like I remember when I talked to Alex, he said, I had to really think about community because everything just sort of organically happened. And I thought, what a blessing that is to have to like look into what makes something work because it's already working. And for some, they did have to look deeper into ways to make something work. And so I think this summit offers pieces to everybody, whether your community's already working and you want to get it to the next level, or whether you're wanting to build the community, or whether you're needing to heal a fractured community. And how to do that from a social dancer perspective on the dance floor, learning how to communicate to somebody, having hard conversations with maybe other people that you're in a team with. But it's this communication piece that allows us to grow. And as Stan shares in his interview, he talks a lot about that. And I hope that everybody listens to his, because he has an outside perspective into what it takes to build and grow community. And I want to talk about culture for a moment, because this has been something that for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years that I became really, really drawn to and became a student of. And not just cultures as we know them today, but cultures in a sense of our ancestors and indigenous cultures and their intact nature. And from what I've learned, we've never been pure and had it only one way, because people interact all over the place. And one of my teachers, Martin Prachtel, he would give us an example of, say you have a village in one location, and this village eats lizard tails. And as the children are growing up, they tell the youth, don't go past the river because there are people that live over there that eat wood rats, and you don't want to go over there because they're different than us. They eat wood rats. They're dangerous in a sense. But then in an intact culture such as that, the youth would go through an initiation process. And in that initiation process, they would actually go and visit that other village and learn about their culture and learn about what it is that they do, and actually eat wood rats and find out that they weren't so bad. Not that I want to eat wood rats or even lizard tails, just an example. But we would, in an intact culture, literally go and learn about that different culture, so that it wasn't those prejudices that kept us apart. It actually was those prejudices that kept us safe when we most needed it. But then at a certain point, we would learn a different way of doing things. And as the world grew larger and larger, you know, people would interact more and more. And if I look at the culture in the United States, you know, we had native peoples all throughout the United States. And when the Europeans came, they brought their customs and their traditions. And the indigenous people, rather than creating a complete separation because they didn't want to adopt the new cultures of the Europeans, they actually started to create an amalgam. And any of the cultures that we have today knew that they had to adapt these new ways of being in order to keep the culture alive. And I think that when I read Robert Farris Thompson's book, he talks about this. And so I want to read something that he says about Milonga that has inspired me through this journey. Milonga, in this sense, refers to reconciling cultures until the pieces all fit. Ritual common denominators emerge and take hold. Build a drum, move the body, sing a song, honor ancestors. Milonga, in this sense, sees cultural differences not as predicament, but as amiable argument, an argument solved by generosity, shared values, and celebratory spirit. And so I think that a lot of these conversations have the codes in them that we really like, that is this structure, that are these shared values that we have within Tango. And the differences wherever we go all over the world, and the social norms in those shared values are still there. And about what Tango is or what Tango isn't, that is different than somebody else's. If we have these shared values, then we have this common love and this common denominator, and this way that with even in that, we are protecting and taking care of this thing that we love so much, that is Tango.
So Judah, I know that you spent 4 months in Buenos Aires, and tell me a little bit about your experience being there and being in a place where tango originated, and what that was like for you, and how it's a little bit different than the tango that you might know in your own community in Arizona.
Well, for one, I wanted to go to Buenos Aires because I wanted to go to the place that tango originated, to understand more of where this dance came from, to understand a little more of the essence of it. Because that's a deep curiosity of mine, is to follow things towards the taproot of what feeds the branches. And so when I went, you know, I'm a country girl, grew up in small town Arizona, not even 100 people in my graduating high school class. I didn't even grow up culturally with the popular American way of living. My parents were hippies that moved to Cave Creek. And so I didn't watch TV, and I didn't listen to the radio, and I didn't eat the standard American diet. So I was always a little bit outside. of my own generation's way of relating to social life. And so when I went to Buenos Aires, a big city, it was overwhelming. My nervous system had a lot to learn and adapt to. But being able to be there in this city, at the Milongas, I got a sense that when we go to the Milonga, we go to let go of anything that happened during the day and be able to completely immerse ourselves into something very different, where it's about being with your friends. It's about remembering that we're not alone and expressing ourselves in fun and creative and innovative ways. And being there, it got exhausting because I learned from the milongueros there that you just give everything. I got to feel the music through them. I got to feel the sentiment. I got to just feel the essence of someone's, where I was the subject and not just an object to be danced with. And within that, it helped me realize that when we go to dance, it's a place where we can just throw all of ourself into it and let our hearts and our bodies completely be open to the present moment. And by getting to experience the culture outside of the Milonga, and that there's so many things that are not predictable or dependable. You never knew if the buses were going to be running or if you'd have Wi-Fi or what was going to happen. So there was a lot of unpredictability. And as that started to sink in, I got a sense of, this is why we give so much in the dance, because it will never be the same. It will never be recreated just the same. There's no guarantee that you go to the Milonga and you're going to get the dances. There's no guarantee that you're going to go to the Milonga and dance with the people that you really want to dance with. They may not return your cabeceo. The music is never going to be the same, and the steps are never going to be the same. And you're even relating to the same person is never going to be the same. And so it helped me really be able to appreciate the improvisation and the passion that is given to tango. So when I came home, I had all of this built up and my heart had been just completely opened from all of the experiences that I had there. And when I tell people, when they ask how it was, I say, well, it chewed me up, it spit me out, it reshaped me, and I am not the same person since. And I went there for that, and I'm extremely grateful for it.
So one of the things that I'm noticing about tango is you have to be completely present when you're on the dance floor. Am I correct?
Yes. And it's like communicating, right? If I'm talking to you, you can tell if I'm zoning out just by, no response or a lack of the continuity in the communication. And it's like that on the dance floor where it's improvised, so you have to be present. And if the mind starts wandering somewhere else, there's these little missteps. And in communication, it's like that anyways, even if we're completely present, because I'm not going to be coming from exactly where you are. And in the process of this summit, I learned a lot. I learned way more than I thought that I would, not only from my speakers, but on a personal level in dealing with the technology and what it takes to create something like this. So I'm not the same shape from this project either. But I think about the growing process that I went through in talking to all of my speakers. And they were all so extremely gracious and generous with me. that my little stumbles in trying to figure out how to be an interviewer, they so graciously just maneuvered around so that it didn't feel like I stumbled at all, because they have more experience than I, and they just sort of took that and interpreted it in a different way and took it in a direction so that we could keep going, much like when we're dancing with a more advanced dancer, or anyone for that matter, is we make a little stumble, we have a little bit of a miscommunication, and they read that, and instead of forcing you in the direction that maybe they wanted to go and it becoming abrupt, they'll just take that as another creative way and say, oh, we're going this way. And that's so much of what I loved about dancing in Buenos Aires, is I got to feel that day in and day out, as my skill grew, because I was just a baby dancer going there, and I was taken under the wing of many skilled dancers, and it helped me grow in more ways than just my technique, but my connection and my musicality and my ability to feel the music and respect the culture where it came from and respect the codes and the structure that is tango. I think it's important to say that I am no different than anyone else in the community in my struggles and my hopes and dreams for what we can have, both in our local community and in our global community. And so this project didn't come because I have these unique ideas. It simply came because I know that you are the company you keep, so keep good company. And I wanted to be around people that knew more than me. And I just simply took action, and I had a few good people give me ideas and support me through the process and tell me that, yeah, this is a good idea. So I hope that as people listen and watch this summit, that they'll take it as possibly an invitation to create more things like this, because as tango grows, we can't keep it in a box. We can't keep it protected as it once was. It has to grow and adapt and change to where we are as social people today. And as it's a popular dance that developed based off of the times, based off of the economic situation, based off of cultural places that it traveled, everybody is connected in some way. And so I simply hope that this forum gives us greater platforms to keep growing tango and keep developing it into a place that hopefully invites more people into it, instead of trying to take us back to some point in time that we can never return to. And so with that, as I've learned throughout this summit, you know, I talked to a lot of my friends throughout it and shared my both excitement and my struggles and my humiliation and my humbling process, you being one of them. Hannah, thank you so much for talking me off the ledge so many times. And in one of the conversations that I had with a friend of mine, she said, "Oh, Judah, this is fantastic. It reminds me of something that Bill Moyers had said about journalism, that essentially it's you being educated in public." And I thought, oh, yes, that is what it's like. So it helped calm some of my perfectionism and my wanting to do it just right and sound like I know what I'm talking about, because I was learning. And so I had to be vulnerable and open and willing to grow. And so I simply did it in a public forum. for everybody to see. And I hope that there are some people that benefit from it.
Judah, can you tell us what you do professionally?
Well, for the past 21 years, well, it started 21 years ago. I started as a massage therapist, and my inquiry just continued to grow into movement, into culture and what it means to be a beautiful human being, and into somatic arts. And so today, what I do is I'm a somatic movement therapist and a brain health coach. And I guess those are the labels that I could have. But I work with people essentially helping them learn about their bodies and how they can heal them, and their brains, and how their brains learn, and how their brains work, and ways in which we can benefit our lives by taking good care of our brain. And so I educate people essentially about our humanness in various capacities. I work right now as a structural therapist, helping people heal themselves from chronic pain and idiopathic conditions. And I teach some tango with these methods and with this information involved, so that people can have sustainable dancing. And I like to break myths about what good posture is. And one of my favorite quotes and things to say is from Emily Conrad, who created Continuum Movement, which is a movement paradigm based off of our fluid system. And she says, movement isn't something we do, but movement is what we are. And so I use that with the brain, since the brain is designed to gather information based off of movement, and our body's movement, both in the sense of its actual physical movements, but our emotions and how that helps us be shaped, the environment, and ideas and thoughts. And so I help people recognize their patterns, both of thinking, feeling, moving, so that they can begin to make different choices that will help them. And so, I love the idea of both structure and freedom. And so I utilize some very specific structural components, but within that, I ask people to be free so that they can explore and feel and learn about themselves.
So with this work that you do, and if you were to help somebody, say with their tango, you come from a different perspective than the technique of the dance. Can you explain a little bit of where you come from and how you help people with their tango?
Yeah, I guess I come from a little bit more of an organic way. And I try to get people first to relax, which is a word I don't often use. I often just use gravity. So I help people have different ideas about what good posture is, and that it's not always we need more effort, or we need to think in terms of being here or there, but how can the body feel better in relationship to gravity and in relationship to itself, so that we're more able to connect to another human being. I had heard once from a teacher, Santiago Castro was the first person that actually introduced this idea to me. And he had said, there are three main connections that we need to recognize, which is the connection to the floor, the connection to the partner, and connection to the music. And so ever since hearing that, I've been kind of looking at the world through these three lenses. And it's something that I've been doing for a long time because one of my teachers had talked about the wings of a butterfly. And so we have what is seen, we have what is not seen, and then we have the middle space that we pass through that is the relationship of those two things. And so I think about that. I think what we see is gravity. It's our physical body. It's what we feel. It's our relationship to the here and now. It's the practical. And then we have what isn't seen, which is music, because the moment music comes out, it disappears. And then we have this space where those two connect, which is our relationship to each other, which is our social interactions and the way that we are with each other. That doesn't exist really without a person being there and without this sort of recognition that there's something that we have to share with each other. And so for me, tango is a place to kind of inquire into these very big ideas. So it literally is a microcosm of life for me. And so I like to bring that into any teaching that I do, whether it's my regular movement classes, my private work with clients, or my tango classes, is just sharing the wealth of understanding that we have two polarities where in the middle they interact, and that's what makes life so beautiful. So to wrap up a little bit of the idea of why I did this summit is I have to say yet again how grateful I am for all of my friends that listened to me, to all the people that actually helped me figure out the technical pieces and all of the little components that go into making something like this. And mostly to my speakers, who many did not know me and were introduced to me by somebody and simply said yes, and actually thought it was a good idea. Because without them, I wouldn't have continued. And so I'm extremely grateful and humbled by the candid conversations I was able to have with them, their willingness to ask if I needed anything else, and their generosity in providing me with the content that is this summit. So besos a todo, and big hugs to all. And I hope that we can have more intelligent conversations in this way. I hope that I get messages about what we can talk about. I hope people join the Facebook group so that we can keep this dialogue going and see what we can do, not only for our local communities, but for us together in tango, and what is yet to come, as we do not know, and how we can make the world a better place because of this unique phenomenon that is tango. Thank you, everybody.